And there was a little bit of spliff and a bit of gay. I just loved the studio. I just loved this kind of the old gear that they've got there. I like the guy that runs it. I've done a lot of mixing there over the years. And I know it from way, way back in the 80s when it was ICC. It was a Christian community studio where they would make kind of religious records, I guess, you know. But
okay.
They would also sometimes rent it out. So I did a lot of stuff there until I was working there with Danny Gillespie. And we had a couple of gay guys that were working with us, and they didn't really like this. So I was asked to leave, and I was never allowed back.
What did you say or do, Phill?
This was the 80s. I did one thing with Bowie way, way back, early 70s, when it was a track called Holy, Holy. It was produced by Herbie Flowers.
Oh, Herbie Flowers, yeah. So
it was his kind of band, and they would, you know... I never really took Bowie too seriously, I must admit. I mean, I know I'm probably in a minority, but I ended up knowing him socially and knew Andy Bowie well. He was a clever guy. I mean, I'm not taking any of that away from him, but he was very good at kind of taking ideas or things that had already been done and then putting his slant on it and making it sound like it's unique and never been done before. So he was quite clever with that. But I mean, I can't say that I particularly was that bothered about this track we were working on. He didn't communicate too much. He was dressed like a highwayman. I just didn't really take him too seriously. I just cannot mix in the box. I have to have it on a desk in front of me that I can kind of play. I mean, I do, you know, it's a lot of it's back to because I learned on 4-track and then 8-track and, you know, a manual mixing all through the 70s. So all that stuff you talk about, whether it was, you know, whether it is Jeff Beck, Sly Stone, Led Zeppelin, whatever, Bob Marley, you know, it's all live mixing. And I loved live mixing because, again, it was another performance in a way. And you get things when you do that, which are mistakes perhaps, or you hadn't intended to, but it's fantastic. But when 80s came along and the SSL and everything's put in and you kind of do your ride and then that's printed and that's it forever kind of thing. That took me a long time to adjust to because it wasn't my kind of way of working. But I eventually kind of got there and, you know, I didn't really enjoy the 80s, particularly musically as much. In the Spirit of Eden album, you know, we were working with 5 24-track tape machines and a Mitsubishi 32-track digital, all kind of synced up and offsets and things. And we could, if something was played in a particular place and we were in the dark, so we're in pitch black, got no screen, all you've got is what you can hear. And if somebody played something which was brilliant but in the wrong place, we would, you know, offset everything and move it to where we thought we wanted it. But it was, again, timing was all done through, Mark would just kind of go there, you know, and we'd work out the maths and do it that way.
There must have been an incredible amount of tracks.
Unbelievable. It eventually ended up on 32 tracks of Mitsubishi and 48 tracks or 46 tracks of analog. That was the albums. But getting there, we had 5 slave reels for ideas or for takes, which if we liked something, we would then bounce it across. On After the Flood, which is on Laughing Stock, which is one of my favorite tracks. I can't listen to the album, but that track, there's over 100 tracks. Everything's mono again. So you've got 2 tracks of drums, maybe 3 or 4 Hammonds on there, maybe a couple of pianos, 4 or 5 guitars, 3 or 4 basses. It's 20 instruments. So all these other tracks are air conditioning units or boiling kettles or recording steam. I mean, to create this absurd atmospherics. And for me, that track I find remarkable still. I mean, the bass is stunning.
Do you hear a steaming kettle when you listen?
No, that's the wonderful thing about, I mean, it was so involved and took so long to do and all the rest of it that admittedly, you know, Tim and I, neither of us listened to the albums probably for a year or two after we'd had them mastered at Abbey Road. It wasn't something you kind of kept putting on.